Welcome to U.S. Defense Line Channel. Operations were held at the logistics points of Russia. Russian soldiers can no longer get enough equipment. Explosion sounds echoed from the regions one after the other. Kherson operations are starting to show results. Ukrainian troops hit 3 bridges on this front used by Russian troops. Russian logistics points that have been rendered unusable are increasing. It was stated that the 3 bridges that were hit were the Novovasilyevsky, Tyaginsky, and Daryevsky bridges. With these moves, Ukraine aims to completely cut off the logistics flow of Russian troops towards Kherson. Ukraine, which has hit many Russian logistics points before, no longer gives room for Russian troops. This causes the troops on the front to be helpless. Also, in recent days, even Russia was aware that Ukraine was preparing for a major operation in the south. Signals of this were evident from the simultaneous advance of Ukrainian troops from 3 directions and targeting critical points. In fact, on top of all this, the anxiety in Moscow grew more and more. Then critical news was announced from this key region. Russia withdraws from key region Kherson. New commander of the Russian troops, Sergei Surovikin, announced the critical news. Surovikin reported that he transferred Russian soldiers to the left bank of the Dnipro River. This means that the soldiers left Kherson. Kherson, a key region for both countries since the beginning of the war, is now back under Ukrainian control. Moreover, it will be very difficult for Russia to provide supply flow to the southern front. Losing its connection to the region by land, Russia withdrew for the first time to avoid further losses. According to experts, Moscow made the right decision for the first time. Russian soldiers, who had not withdrawn from the region due to wrong mistakes in other regions before, had suffered serious losses. Taking lessons from these losses, Russia announced its decision to withdraw after the Ukrainian troops started operations. As it is known, Ukraine had recently started major operations on the southern Kherson front, and it was only a matter of time before larger moves were made. After the Ukrainian units carried out successive moves against Russian military points, the Russian army was getting more and more difficult. In fact, the number of Russian soldiers captured and surrendered in many regions began to increase. On this, we can say that Russia had to withdraw in order not to inflict more losses on this Kherson front. Immediately after these developments, the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, ordered the establishment of military administration in 4 regions in Kherson. Ukraine, which is very close to taking back the whole region, has now taken action to provide both military and administrative superiority in the region. It was reported that these military administrations will be located in 2 each in the districts of Skadovsk and Kakhovka on the Kherson front. Zelensky previously appointed 10 heads of military administration to the regions, in addition to the Kherson military administration. Later, it was reported that 20 military administrations were established in Kherson. With such moves, it is desired to ensure the superiority of the military administration in the regions. If Ukraine continues at this rate, the country will completely clear its territory of Russian soldiers. This will make victory inevitable. For Russia, greater losses and defeats will become much more possible. Moreover, it is known that this Kherson region borders the Crimea. After full control in this region, it may become inevitable that operations against Crimea will start at any moment. This will make the scale of the war completely different, because, as it is known, the president of Ukraine, Zelensky, stated that the struggles will continue in order to get Crimea back after the events that took place in Crimea. In fact, explosions echoed at critical points many times in the region. These voices came from the Russian military points. All these developments arouse more curiosity about possible moves towards this region in the coming days. Ukrainian troops have now started to work to ensure security on their lines on the southern front. While these studies were continuing, it was reported that 11 attacks were carried out against Russian air defense positions at the same time. During this attack, Ukrainian troops completed nearly 300 successful shooting missions and destroyed many Russian ammunition depots and military equipment. At the same time, Ukrainian troops neutralized a large number of Russian soldiers. Russian troops, on the other hand, try their last chances and continue to attempt attacks. However, the Ukrainian troops neutralized all the attacks of the Russian forces and managed to push these troops back from the regions. Successful Ukrainian operations against Russian troops on many fronts continue increasingly. At the same time, Russian troops continue to make offensive attempts against Ukrainian troops to compensate for their losses. This time, explosions echoed over Odessa. A large number of artillery shots came from this region in the south. Ukrainian troops repulsed the attacks of the Russian forces thanks to the successful defensive line they established. According to the reports, Russian troops launched a 31 air-to-surface missile on the Black Sea coast on the Odessa front. But thanks to the outstanding achievements of the Ukrainian Air Force, this Russian attack missile was shot down while it was still above the sea. In this way, there was no damage in the region and security was provided. As it is known, Russia has been experiencing missile problems recently. He even transferred some of his missile-laden ships from the Black Sea to the Mediterranean because he was worried. Russia carries out airstrikes whenever it fails militarily. However, in recent days, it is known that air defense systems have been sent to Ukraine from many countries such as Italy, Spain, and the United States. If these systems reach the territory of Ukraine, there will be no Russian military equipment in the Ukrainian skies. This time, the Ukrainian Air Forces carried out 16 attacks against the critical points of the Russian forces throughout the day. As a result of this move, many Russian positions were damaged. A large number of Russian military equipment was also destroyed. Russian troops, on the other hand, could not respond to these moves of the Ukrainian troops because they had insufficient equipment and had to withdraw from the regions. As a result of such accurate attacks by the Ukrainian troops, it was reported that 4 Russian command points in 8 regions, numerous military equipment clusters, and 4 positions of the Russian air defense were destroyed and rendered ineffective. After these moves, Russia began to weaken gradually on the fronts. In the face of the successful and accurate attack attempts of the Ukrainian troops, the Russian soldiers, who were quite inadequate, show how helpless they are by withdrawing from the intense conflict zones. Moreover, it is known that these soldiers were abandoned by their commanders, especially at critical moments. Russia has now begun to go further and further from improving neither in the military or in the economic field. Especially as a result of the mutual attacks that have increased in recent days, Russia is mostly the party that suffers great losses. On top of that, due to the increasing losses, there are serious decreases in defense and attack power. Russia will no longer tolerate a single defeat. However, it became very difficult for him to make a move on the contrary. Russia, which had control over much more regions at the beginning of the war, can now maintain its dominance in a much smaller region. But it is forced to withdraw from these regions with each passing day. As these withdrawals take place, serious deficiencies in both military resources and various equipment will continue to occur. Now, any move that countries will take has become much more critical. Loss is increasing day by day. Various successes and failures determine the course of the war. If Ukraine can continue its successful moves, such regional gains will increase. This contributes to maintaining superiority on the fronts. Moreover, more places to deploy will be opened. Progressively advancing Ukrainian troops can add a new one to the great successes at any moment. Every move has become more important now. In time, the course of the war will become clearer according to the decisions of the country's leaders and the steps to be taken. In these days when there is no margin of error for both countries, anything can happen at any moment. We'll see what happens in the next few days. We have reached the end of another video. You can support us by liking the video. You can easily follow new videos by subscribing. I wish you all a war-free day. See you.